Welcome to Inside Startup Investing, the only podcast where you can invest in every guest. On this episode, I will be speaking with the founder and CEO of Tapouts, George Moringer. As a reminder, if you like what you hear on today's episode, you can invest in Tapouts on WeFunder, regardless of whether or not you are accredited, with a minimum investment of $250 until April 30th, 2026. If you have children, you have inevitably experienced your fair share of tantrums, hard moments, and behaviors you're not quite sure how to handle. It's a part of kids learning about their emotions as they navigate the world. But figuring out how to help your kids learn to manage their emotions and feelings can be challenging. And while therapy is a great option, it's not necessarily the first step you need to take. At least, not with Tapouts. Tapouts, to me, is like going to the gym and eating healthy to prevent having health complications, except for children's feelings and emotions. George and his team have created an online platform to help cohorts of children from the ages of 4 to 16 navigate and learn in a group setting about everything from understanding feelings like anger to knowing why large social settings can be uncomfortable for a teen and everything in between. Now, I will be honest. If this was still just an idea, I'd wonder about the demand and the economics. But since founding the company just a few years ago, this team has served over 20,000 children, and parents and children alike love it. They are really helping kids and teens to better understand themselves, the world around them, and how to regulate and manage their own emotions before they snowball. With a $5 million revenue run rate, and a team that I feel confident can continue to execute, it became clear that the Tapouts team has created a new category of child wellness education technology. I left the conversation extremely impressed by management, and I'm proud to say we are investors at Kingscrowd Capital. I love strong execution, and this team is clearly performing at a high level. For me, listening to the founder explain the things they have learned about the child's experience in their group sessions over time and how they modified how they operate to create something the kids will love gave me confidence that they can continue to execute, learn, adapt, and grow the business forward. So let's get on to the show and welcome George. For those who don't know, what is Tapouts?
Well, Tapouts is a platform that we developed. Our goal has always been to teach kids social-emotional learning skills. And it's difficult to teach kids skills that they don't actually want to learn. And so Tapouts took the science of social-emotional learning and converted it into something that is really fun and teaches kids skills that will change their life forever.
Can you make this real for us? I have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an 8-week-old. And we're always trying to teach them how to be, good citizens of the world. And it's hard. It's really hard. How do you communicate with them? So what does that look like?
It's a group. So kids join once a week for 30 minutes. In a small group, it's around 6 to 7 kids. And we have amazing coaches. Coaches teach certain skills, like over time they'll teach, for example, box breathing. Box breathing is a skill that will help a kid self-regulate their emotions, for example. And we teach these skills, but we also teach knowledge around, like, for example, what is an emotion? Kids don't really understand that very often. And so it's really important for kids to, on the one side, get to understand, oh, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm feeling, putting a name behind the feeling. And on the other side, having tools to be able to deal with those feelings in a way, because these are overwhelming feelings. We get them, there's something happening in our body, and we don't know how to react. And that often gets kids to feel uncomfortable in their own skin. And then some kids go into meltdown, tantrums, dysregulation. And so what's really important is to get kids to learn these skills and also identify what's happening in them, and then just be able to deal with them once they surface. And that's what we do. In effect, we teach them these skills, but it's also what's important about Tapouts is groups are super powerful. And when kids get together with kids in the same age range from all over the country and the world, what happens is they see that other kids are going through similar things in their life, and it just calms them down. Like, we all know this. You're in a group, you see someone, you have a tough day, you see someone else has a tough day, you're like, okay, it's easier for me, you know? And so there's so many layers to Tapouts and how it works. Of course, we teach them skills, but they get together in these safe environments. It's fun, they get points, and they can swap those points for mystery boxes, like amazing prizes. And so that's the system that we've built, is that it's a fast 30 minutes once a week, and they'll learn real skills that change their lives.
So getting big emotions, like, really upset that someone took a toy you wanted to play with or whatever it may be, right? Learning how to share. How do you teach that emotion and help them understand what it is? What does the activity look like that gets someone to understand that?
Yeah, so we have a game in one of our sessions called Wheel of Emotions. And so now what they're doing is they spin the wheel, and then they talk about that specific emotion, or they act that emotion out, or they'll then, in the group, they'll talk about, like, when does that emotion actually happen? And so they identify that emotion through games. And then what we also teach them is we give them a scale, because not every emotion is the same. Sadness is like there's a broad range of sadness. There's like very sad, or there's just like a tiny bit sad. And so that's also like a gauge that you have to teach kids, because very sad would have a different impact on the child and what the child needs to do. And being a bit sad is like everyone's a bit sad. And so it's really important to give them just like in a playful way, teach them that identification. The Wheel of Fortune is something. Wheel of Emotions is one thing. And then what we also do is we take a topic called negative thoughts, and we build them into something called ants in our ecosystem. Ants are automatic negative thoughts. And so one of our sessions is called Catch 'em, Squish 'em. How do you catch the ants, and how do you squish the ants? How do you get rid of them? And it's in a playful way that we teach them how to identify negative thoughts, and that everyone has hundreds of thousands of negative thoughts every week. And so the question is, how do we deal with them? And once you're able to deal with them, you become far more calm. And this is like what we do in these games, is that we make it very fun for them to learn these skills. And they don't even feel like they're learning a skill, because when they play Catch 'em, Squish 'em, that's a game. It's just a game, and they get points for the game, but they're learning that skill somewhere hidden in the game.
What's your background? What's your team background? What's the science behind all of this? And what all compelled you to want to take this science and application of what you all know to do this at scale? So
my background is I come from a philosophy background, so I studied philosophy, been a deep thinker about things for all of my life. And one of the things I've always thought about is I grew up in a family, same mom, same dad, two brothers. One brother super resilient, the other brother nightmare with dealing with stress and just self-regulation. And I was always wondering why two kids growing up in the same family could be so different. And so that brought me into understanding, and I did a lot of reading about stress mindset, growth mindset. Then I found out that SEL has like a huge impact on children's mental well-being. And so that's how I got into the space, by reading a lot of books. And one of the main books that was a pivotal moment in me deciding to go into this space was a book by Kelly McGonigal, The Upside of Stress. And she writes in this book that small, tiny interventions of 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute can have a huge impact on someone's life. And I was like, wow, what if we could do this for kids and build these small interventions where we teach them a specific skill, and then that skill can change their life forever. And so, of course, I didn't have the background. And so what we did is we built a team of amazing researchers, therapists, psychiatrists, people that studied neuroscience, and put that all together. And then we took SEL, and there's a lot of science around SEL and the impact on SEL, and just converted that into something that I would have loved as a kid, like something fun, exciting, and that's how it all came together.
Sometimes when I hear, there's a bunch of scientists in a room and neuroscientists and this, that, and the other thing, I think, boy, they might get in their own way. And only because I've seen it, not as a knock against them whatsoever. But this is an investing podcast, right? And when it comes to investing, it can worry me sometimes when the top team is so science heavy. However, in this case, you all have generated really tremendous annual revenues and annual growth. So you figured out the crux of how to actually build a business around this. So I'm not worried about that here. But I can't imagine it was easy to get this thing off the ground and figure out how to create these actionable classes for all these different ages that you serve and make it work and compelling and that people love it and then sell it at scale. And you're doing those things now. I need to understand a little bit of what are some of the steps that you've all been taking to get here?
You nailed it. It's tough. You're teaching kids an actual boring skill. Like, that's what it is. And when we started, we were a bit naive around the whole thing of like, oh, these are skills. They're amazing. Every kid will want to learn these skills. And I remember standing here in the office and we were failing. Kids didn't turn on their camera. They didn't want to show up. Their parents tied them to the chair pretty much to do these sessions, because what we learned early on was that parents believed that this was important for their children, but children didn't want to do it. And I remember standing here and thinking, oh, this might be a failed idea. But then I recall when I was a kid, I went to this coach and she gave us silver stars for showing up, for being good sports, for participating. And if with 5 stars, you got a gold star, and with 5 gold stars, you got a lollipop, which was scam. It was a tiny lollipop. It was so much work to get that lollipop. But I still remember that I fought for that lollipop. And so that was the weekend when I was, okay, we need to figure this out. And so we developed a gamification layer. And that gamification layer was a game changer in the whole program. Because what it did was we told kids, listen, show up. It's all about showing up. It's all about being a good sport, respectful, and enabling a safe space. And so by just putting those ground rules out there and saying, if you follow these rules, then you will get a mystery box, you will get a Polaroid camera, you'll get cool stuff. And that was a game changer. One of the tiny game changers, but it was a big game changer in the grander scheme of things. But we've had so many of those moments over time. Another thing, when I saw initially we had coaches show up, amazing coaches, but they were overwhelmed by the whole operational backend. 7 kids in a group. A kid might have some issues with their sound, might have some, I don't know how this works, what is this? And so what we did is we said we need to give the coaches the freedom to facilitate. And so what we did, we built in a layer of support. So every one of our sessions has a coach assistant in them. So there's always 2 adults in every group. One is on the camera doing the facilitation. In the background, the coach assistant helps the coach with all these questions. And so the coach can focus on facilitating the program, and all of the operational stuff is the back end. That was a game changer for the program and for the quality of the program overall. And so we have all these little things that we've iterated on over time that have built this program to what it is. And it's always been, the guideline has always been, how do we build magic into these groups? And that's what we're trying to do, like keep the magic. And magic is something you can't really explain, but when you see it and feel it and experience, then it's real. And that's what we're doing.
Help me understand how you source the coaches, what their backgrounds are, and how you train them up.
That's a question we get from a lot of investors, is like, oh, will you have enough coaches? And our answer is that's the least problem we have in our system is coaches. Because what we did is we decided that there must be hundreds of thousands of amazing coaches out there, like teachers, therapists, life coaches. And we want to identify, we put an ad out, let's say on LinkedIn, or there's a lot of word of mouth going on already on the coach side, because we pay really well. And so we get 1,000 applications in, and we'll take 2 coaches of those. And so there's a huge need for for teachers that are doing an amazing job at school but not earning the amount of money that they need to really have a good life. And so they then do this as a side gig in our system. They get paid pretty well. And so our teachers and coaches are earning around $4,000, $4,500 a month on top of their normal salary.
Wow.
And so that's how we've built a system where we get the best of the best teachers out there that have 15, 20 years of experience, have the energy, the excitement and all that, and then we train them on our program. And those are the facilitators. And so what's important in our system is that our program was developed by us. That means the coaches, which are the teachers, or they could be therapists, or they could be psychologists, or whatever they are, they come in and their job is to facilitate an amazing, magical session. And they don't have to care about the script or anything, because that comes from us. The games come from us. Everything comes from us. And that's why I feel this is a huge opportunity for coaches to come in and just earn a side gig without having to do much other than be there and be excited.
What is the business model? How do you make money, and how do you make sure there's enough margin in each class to make it work?
We didn't understand the one-on-one model back then, and that's why we went to groups. And of course, like, groups is far better on just the business model side, because what we do is we pay a coach, let's say $50, $60 for a session. But on the other side, we're earning $37, $40 per kid per session. And so multiply that times 6, 7 versus the coach cost. We have a margin of around 70% per session. And so that's the business model overall.
Nice. In terms of acquiring your clients, the children who are in the program, again, you're doing, I think, north of $10 million in revenue a year right now. How are you acquiring these clients, and then how long do they stick around? How long is the program?
We've become pretty good in performance marketing. So we know how to tame the algorithm, have the right messages, the right hooks, how to explain it to parents. So we have a mix between Meta and Google that works well for us. And then we have referral systems. We have schools reaching out to us now saying we would love to bring you in as a service for our children. One of a lovely story that I always love telling is that a mom who had her daughter on the program loved Tapouts so much and saw the change. And by coincidence, she was the head of people at ServiceNow, which is 27,000 people. And she got in touch with me through LinkedIn and said, George, I love the program, seen the change, we want to bring you in. And so now we're a benefit at ServiceNow. And so there's like so many streams that are incoming, and it's like growing as we have more kids on the program. These new channels are opening up. So our vision has always been, let's do great at developing a service/product for parents, and then we know it will become a pull product, and that's what's happening at the moment. So we don't go out B2B, but there's a lot of inbound, just automatic inbound of people coming in and saying, we love this, we would like to bring it into our ecosystem. So that's the cool thing of still being a startup, where you don't have to have those brutal channels in place where you're just pitching it to the outside. You can still have the freedom of just taking the inflow and then deciding, oh, this is good, let's look at this, and seeing what works about these channels. And that's what we're doing at the moment. We're a D2C company. We believe building an amazing brand in the D2C space will then help us in the B2B space going forward. And then just think of all of the add-ons, like when we go into insurance space, what Tapouts does is it reduces the amount of therapy needed. So that's a huge topic for insurances as well, that want to just pay less for therapy. So why not put them into something that has a real impact on their life? And many kids don't need therapy. We see this. Parents don't want to have their kids go to therapy very often, or they don't see the need, but there's no alternative. And so there's so many channels that are opening up for us at the moment.
This is probably an ignorant comment, but having grown up in the '90s, I don't think there was any programming like this whatsoever, and it's mostly, hey, don't do that, right? But what I'm trying to understand here is like, what's the crux? What's the moment when a parent says, I think my kid needs some help, or I need some help managing my
Well,
kid?
there's so many reasons. If you look at our base of kids, there's 50% on neurotypical kids. That means those are kids where parents just say, oh, my kid is on social media too much. My kid is eating too much. My kid is not relaxed when they have to, I don't know, do a theater performance or whatever. Let me try and help them. So that's the one side of it. The other side is there are real conditions out there that are developing, and parents are seeing these conditions develop over time. And before they pass a certain threshold, they say, let's try this. Before we push our kid into therapy, let's give this a shot. And so those are the ones that are like on the edge to being neurodivergent, or they are already neurodivergent, and they want to give it a try. Because what SEL does is it just builds resiliency. And so resiliency is good regardless if you're neurotypical or neurodivergent.
On the website, it talks about kids from 4 to 16. Obviously, that is a deeply wide range. How do you make sure you have enough kids in each session? Do you have programming for 4 to 16? And I imagine the challenges of taking care of a 16-year-old are very different from a 4-year-old. So how are you navigating all those complexities?
Yeah, we broke the groups down into 4 to 6, 7 to 10, 11 to 13, and 14 to 16. So we have 4 group systems, age ranges, and then we've adapted the program based on those age ranges. So a 4 to 6-year-old will get a lighter version of SEL, of course, and a 14 to 16-year-old comes in, they want to talk more about these topics, so they don't want the games, and so we've built that for that age range. So we're aware of the fact that every one of these age ranges needs a specific program that works for them.
One of the areas you talk about for scaling up, even if you're not doing direct B2B kind of enterprise sales, is getting into the school segment, and you're having these inbounds come from referrals and parents who are loving it. The question that I have, again, thinking from an investment perspective, is like, I could certainly see why a school would want this. Hey, let's help our kids learn how to, behave better, navigate their emotions, feelings, all of those things. But it's a budget question, right? Where do they come up with the budget for all of their students? Could be as much as hiring another teacher or more in a year's given time. So where are they going to find the budget for something like this? And does that create a challenge in selling it to a school?
We're working with homeschool systems at the moment. They have budgets for this. And so, of course, we do give a discount on the D2C price. But that is something they're willing to pay for kids being enrolled in our program. Of course, we will have to, at some point, if we want to go deep into the school system, we're going to have to figure out a version of our program that schools can afford, because we know that they're probably going to pay $10, $12, $15 a year per kid. So we will work on those products as well. But at the moment, we're just selling our premium product, and the people who can purchase that product, we will work with them to make it somehow financeable. But overall, I would say that it's going to be a different product for schools in the future, but we aren't there yet.
How long do kids typically stay in the programming? And say you're in the program for, at 4, since it goes 4 to 6, does the programming continue to evolve so they could stay in it at 5 and 6? Or is it kind of all right, 4, I'll wait till I'm 7?
It's also a good question. We have one program at the moment. And with this program, which is just a very simple core program that has a huge impact, but it's a very core program, we generate around, on average, $800 in LTV. But the cool thing is that 60% of all of our LTV is above 1,150 already. So that means that's 8 cycles, 8 months on the program for 60% of the kids. Now, what we're doing is we're building out a program V2, we call that in our system, where we will be offering additional programs. And so now what's going to happen is that parents that sign up their kids for a certain condition, they will go through an 8-week core program, and then they will graduate into a track in our system, it's called. And then, so we believe that those people that come in for a specific reason, and then they're not happy with a core program, that they will then stay in longer because they're looking for support on specific topics. And so that's the current, the shift that's happening. We're moving away from the 800 on average LTV. Probably our projections are that we will get to around 1,500 in LTV within a year or 1.5 years from now.
From an outcomes perspective, just anecdotally, what is some of the feedback you've gotten on, improvements in children's behavior or feelings or whatever it may be?
There's so much. Like, there's so many stories that we hear. One story is a girl was on the program, and we have this session. It's called goals, a goal session, and they need to write down like their goals and what they would love to achieve and what they haven't achieved. And she wrote down on this on her paper, she wrote down, "I would love to be a volleyball superstar." And it was just so far away. She hadn't even started, and she didn't know how to start. But she showed this to her father, and her father was like, "Wow, I didn't know that you wanted to do this." And so they started to support her, and now she's in one of the best schools for volleyball because she wrote it down, her dad saw it, and they just continued. And I think it took her 3 years, and now I think she's in the national, like the juniors league or something like that.
Wow.
So that's just one of the many, many stories of kids moving from being, for example, shy to being, oh, let me do this. Like, we have kids that were just too shy. They wanted to be in the theater group. They didn't. They did Tapouts, and now they're in the theater group on stage and just love it. So there's just so many stories of kids transforming through the program.
How many kids have you served to date?
So we've served around 20,000 kids.
Wow.
On our program. Last year alone, we did 200,000 show-ups in our ecosystem. So that means like 200,000 reservations for a session. And the cool thing, we've built the technology, the back end, all of this to enable us to be able to facilitate these sessions and not miss any sessions. Because I remember when I was doing some research back then, I did it with these therapy platforms, and then the therapist was like, "Oh, George, can we push this to tomorrow? I can't do today." And that just annoyed the shit out of me. And so what we've done is, in the 200,000 show-ups that we've had, we did not miss one session, because we have like a warn system. If a coach doesn't show up, we have 8 minutes of time to find a substitute for that coach. And so it's a very robust system where experience and just the magic is ingrained in. Like, any minute a kid is on the program, there's that magic. And the magic also is not only comes from just the coaches being amazing, but also just the whole technology and back end and everything working seamlessly.
From a growth strategy perspective, and that's amazing, by the way, but from a growth strategy perspective, is this an exercise in ad buying, repeat customers, upsells to new courses, and going into the school segment? Are those kind of the key drivers to growth going forward?
Yeah, we believe that there's a huge opportunity for us in that premium space as well, where by just offering additional programs over time, as I said, we have one program at the moment and one fits all. And so by adding in these additional programs over time, that we will have more touch points with kids as they grow up from being 4 to 6 into their 14 to 16 age range, and maybe even further. So we do see kids reaching out to us, or youth reaching out to us, or their parents saying, "Oh, I'm 17, I would love this, I feel anxious, I heard so much cool things about Tapouts, can I do it?" We have to say at the moment, we haven't gotten to that age range yet. But also when you go to colleges, we see that anxiety, performance, all of that is like something that is a real issue with youth and young people growing up. So there's a huge opportunity for us to go into that space as well. But I believe just by offering additional programs, we're working on a creativity program at the moment with some amazing people, a music program like music and well-being, financial literacy, anxiety. So there's so many programs that we will then put into the market. And I think that will just like keep us engaged and in touch with the kids as they grow up.
When you think about an exit for this business, what does that look like? Do you want to IPO this business? Do you want to just keep building for the next decade? Do you want to be acquired by a big ed tech platform? How do you think about it?
I think we'll be acquired at some point. Someone will come and say, listen, what you guys are doing is amazing. It's really difficult to get into this space. We know that the mental well-being education space is something that is growing tremendously. And so the tutoring companies, they just have no clue how to do this specific vertical. And so I think there's a huge opportunity. I actually spoke to a tutoring company just now that reached out to us and said they would love to white label our program. I said, well, that's a bit difficult. They have a huge base, and now going into summer, they don't know what to do. Like they have this fall off into the summer, but we don't have this fall off into the summer. So I do think a ed tech platform might just want to purchase us. We're also excited about the opportunity to maybe put it out as an IPO. We would love to do that as well. So there's a lot of options for us to go over the next 5 years. Like our horizon is like 5 to 7 years. But we're excited about building this. We just have so many ideas still that we need to build out in order to feel like we've done it. This is it. We don't have any ideas left.
For those investors who are on the line or listening in, I want to give you the last word here, as I always do. What do you want them to know?
Well, I think it's an amazing business. Like I truly think that if you look at businesses out there, it's a business that does good on the one side and changes children's lives. And on the other side, it has a huge opportunity to be a high valuation company over the next couple of years, because it is a space we all know kids need this. They're going to need it more and more because life is just becoming more complicated. So there's a huge space that a strong brand like Tapouts can then just own over the next couple of years.
If you like what you heard on the show today, you can invest $250 or more in Tapouts on WeFunder until April 30th, 2026. And of course, if you want to learn more about why Tapouts scored a 4.1 out of 5 on the Kingscrowd proprietary rating scale, as well as an investment from Kingscrowd Capital, you can go to kingscrowd.com and search Tapouts. And as always, if you like what you heard on the show today, please like, subscribe, and share our podcast wherever you listen, so more investors like you can find us. Thanks for tuning in, and happy investing.